We really love games that give you the freedom to do whatever you want, of course, within reason. So today we're talking about 10 games that let you do pretty much absolutely anything. Starting off at number 10, for a game that seems on the surface as limited as Bully, there's actually a lot of stuff you can do. There's some boring stuff like attending classes, but there's so many optional things in the game that don't really serve any purpose. They're just fun to do. Being able to pants people, give them swirlies, or put kick me signs on people is extremely entertaining, but that's really only kind of the start of the mischief you can get up to. Now, once you're free to actually explore the whole town, that's when your options really open up. There's an arcade, there are carnival games, bike races, go-karts, boxing, and more stuff. The amount of side content in this game is impressive, but if you don't care about that, then there's always the option to just cause mayhem. One of my favorite tricks is to get some help from Russell, who you can get to follow you at any point after chapter 1, and you can use him to cause as much consequence-free chaos as you want. All you have to do is do something to make an NPC angry enough to attack you, and then let Russell just do the rest. So seeing this student go around powerbombing innocent people like pedestrians into the pavement just never gets old. So while you can't do absolutely everything, it's basically anything you would want to do in a game where you're playing as a student. Next, over at number 9, Sleeping Dogs. Now, as you're probably already starting to notice, this list isn't literally about games that let you do absolutely anything. Otherwise, it would be full of like weird life simulators or like Dwarf Fortress or something. So instead, this is about games that let you engage in just amusing chaos that normally isn't permitted in games. And Sleeping Dogs is full of this stuff. One thing that's great about this game is the variety of things you do. There's Arkham Asylum-like hand-to-hand combat, there's third-person shooting, there's car combat stuff like ramming, and you can also jump from one car to another and steal it. There's also a lot of mini games and side activities like karaoke, mahjong, cockfighting, just to name a few. But the best thing about Sleeping Dogs is how it lets you utterly ruin an NPC's day with like no consequences. Grab someone and bash their head with a car door, or shove some unsuspecting victim into a car trunk and drive it off of a pier.
What's going on?
Nobody cares. You can do this stuff as much as you want, and it's always funny. I know people might be concerned on this list, like games that let you do absolutely anything, and absolutely anything in our case is just murder, but hey, we're having fun. Next, over at number 8, in comparison to other open world games, the Just Cause games are actually kind of limited in their side activities. There are bases to clear out and a few races here and there, but beyond the basic gameplay loop, you're not doing a lot else. What earns this game a spot on this list, though, is how much stuff you can do as part of that loop. While the stuff you're doing, it's simple, it's everything around it. There's parachuting, gliding, a grappling hook, basically flying, tons of vehicles to drive, including sports cars and tanks, aerial vehicles that most open world games still don't include, like helicopters or jumbo jets, the whole bunch of overpowered weapons, so you can just really go crazy. All these movement options let you cause as much mayhem as you want. By the end of the game, you're basically a walking god of destruction. You can do whatever you want because nobody can stop you, and you can do it either on the ground or in the air. And I mean, Just Cause 3 somehow finds a way to make you even more overpowered. The DLC missions just straight up make it so you can fly by adding a jetpack booster to your glider and missiles. Now you're just Iron Man. It's an Iron Man game, and it's great. Now, next, over at number 7, Baldur's Gate 3. Most of this list is open world games that give you a lot of tools for causing chaos and make it easy, but with Baldur's Gate 3, the world you inhabit is much more limited. This is like a computer RPG set in a relatively small area, but what makes it stand out is how much freedom it affords players to pursue their goals. And we're not just talking about like role-playing opportunities, because there are a lot of different options for playing your character and making choices that can completely change how the story unfolds. In most RPGs, there are the pre-scripted choices you can make and that's it. But in Baldur's Gate 3, there's a lot more to it. By that, we mean you can kill everyone, if you want. Most characters who you would assume would be quest critical and untouchable aren't. Like, you can just kill them as much as you would kill anyone else, and the game keeps going. These characters are usually replaced by backups who will fill the story role of that killed character, and if you want to kill them too, then you can, and something else might happen. On top of that, the open-ended nature of the world allows you to do some ridiculous things to break the game, like taking advantage of this exploit that makes it so you can fill up containers with more containers, so an object is infinitely heavy, and it kills everything instantly. It's one of those things that's only possible in a game with some heavy simulation elements and the kind of stuff Larian is famous for, and the sort of thing that makes Baldur's Gate 3 stand out among other less reactive RPGs. It's awesome. Now over at number 6, the Saints Row series has always allowed players to cause as much pointless chaos as the player wants with little repercussion, but Saints Row 4 takes the absurdity of the open world really to the next level. Sure, it was fun running around, bashing in pedestrians' nuts, power bombing people, smashing through front windshields of cars that were already moving just to steal them, but with the 4th game, you can do that all while also having superpowers. So you still get access to basically all the over-the-top stuff from Saints Row 3, but now you've got super speed, super strength, psychic powers, the list goes on. Take all that and add in the series' most absurd weapons, and you've got a game that isn't even trying to stop you anymore. Hell, you can literally just make yourself invincible with an unlock. This game doesn't just let you do anything you want, it wants you to do anything you want, and we respect them for that. Now over at number 5, Bethesda games have always been about the sandbox, and while certain other games in the series have had better role-playing and character building, no other Fallout game has given you quite as much stuff to do like in Fallout 4, like just stuff. There's the normal gameplay loop, of course, of shooting, looting, talking, RPGing, but the game can be pretty limited in who it allows you to kill. The other stuff the game lets you do, though, is impressive. That you could build settlements with its own complex power and happiness style. There are mini games you can play on your Pip-Boy. There's an elaborate crafting system. There are robot companions to build, an underground base to construct, an entire amusement park to explore with its own rides and games. The entire settlement system really expands your options for what you can do with NPCs in Fallout 4. Sure, the plot critical ones are off limits, but you could do whatever you want to settlers. Lock them up in a human zoo, or put them into like an elaborate Rube Goldberg style death trap. You could do whatever you want to these people if you have time and you want to experiment, and no one in the game really seems to care. And there's also like the endless world of mods that really make Fallout 4 a game that lets you do pretty much anything. Next, over at number 4, the Yakuza, or should we now say the Like a Dragon series as it's known in Japan and now technically here, is just like a smorgasbord of entertainment. These games are famous for their massive selections of side activities and mini games to screw around with between all the cutscenes and beatdowns, and at least at the time of this writing, we think Lost Judgment from the Judgment Side series is currently the game with the highest amount of just stuff in it. There's a frankly insane amount of side content in this game that can all be safely ignored, but is really worth trying out. A major part of the plot involves the main character investigating a school, which somehow gets him involved in way too many different after-school activities. The list just goes on. There's dancing class where you can manage a dance troupe, a BattleBot-style robotics club game that's a huge pain in the ass, a boxing gym with a combat game that's completely different from the normal street combat you get into, an entire biker subplot where you drive a moped in races for some reason. There's so much of this stuff. There's a photography club, a skateboarding side quest, you can perform tricks and ride skateboards whenever you want, an esports club where you can play Virtua Fighter 5, like Virtua Fighter 5, not even like the oldest ones, like the entire game is just in this one. And there's still more. That's on top of all the other arcade games, activities, side quests that are in the game. It's just an absurd amount of stuff that only looks like it'll be topped by Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth when that releases. Like, judging from the trailers, it seems like you can do anything. This series, regardless of whether it's Judgment or Yakuza, is absolutely awesome. Now down to number 3, there are plenty of games that let you go nuts while playing them, but very few open world games have a sort of debug mode that anyone can just use and access whenever they want. It's called Keys to the City in Crackdown. And this free DLC lets you load up a special game where you have free roam of the city and access to a special options menu that lets you break the game wide open. There's the usual cheat options like God mode, infinite ammo, ghost mode where the police won't retaliate if if you attack them. There's stuff like that, but the option that really makes this mode fun is the spawning menu, where you can just summon not just vehicles, but allies, enemies, and a ton of random objects, including explosive barrels. So anytime you want, you can create a massive shootout between two sides or surround a guy with explosives just to see what happens. It's an amazing option that every open world game should have, but only the Crackdown games ever just hand this stuff to you. Yeah, you can always mod Rockstar games to get all this stuff, but Crackdown gave you all the cheats and game-breaking stuff for free in the game, like with no mods or anything.
Downloading new agency intel to your personal network agent.
Now at number 2, Breath of the Wild gave players an unprecedented amount of freedom for a Zelda game, while Tears of the Kingdom just ripped up the script entirely and went nuts. The amount of stuff you can do in this game is just mind-blowing. Sure, it's almost all related to using the Ultra Hand, but the hand is just an incredible feature all around, with so many different ways to use it for exploits or to just amuse yourself. Create bizarre weapons to destroy enemies without having to even lift a finger, or abuse those annoying Koroks, fly up into the skybox, or use the Ultra Hand to trigger some weird, wild glitches that fling you across the map. Like, in terms of the actual side content, there's a fair amount, but it's not wildly divergent from just playing the game. In Tears of the Kingdom, if you want to do almost anything, you just gotta figure out a way to make it happen yourself, and the game will let you do it, most likely, even if you gotta look up a tutorial on YouTube. Now down at number 1, Grand Theft Auto 5. What else could be number 1? The amount of stuff to do in GTA 5 is just absurd at this point. There's a ton to do offline, but there's so much to do online that it makes our heads spin. Online has just been getting updates for upwards of like 10 years, and there's a lot of crap to do. Just a standard game is chock full of content, way more than any other open world game out there. It's a game with an overwhelming selection of things to do, from the specially curated to the entirely player-driven. There are entire role-playing communities inside GTA 5. It's not just a game that lets you do whatever you want. There are players who literally do everything and anything just in the world of the game. With GTA 5, they really prove that like what you're doing in these worlds doesn't always have to boil down to just violence. There's just so much more and so much more freedom to do whatever.
Hey, look at that bad boy.
Those are 10 games, but we got one more bonus one that we couldn't fit in. It's The Sims 4. You know, you're basically the god of a small town, so the potential for cruelty in The Sims 4 is off the charts. Depending on how you want to play it, you can carefully navigate your family to wealth or success, or you can thoroughly just ruin their lives before locking them in a room and having them starve to death. The potential for evil is really high in The Sims games, and there's not really any repercussions for just killing as many Sims as you like. It's both a comprehensive life simulator, but also not at all. It's something weirder. But like we said, those are 10 or so games that let you do absolutely anything, within the confines of usually those games, but still a staggering amount of weird, strange, fun, distracting things. There are plenty of other games to talk about, so much that we didn't include on this list, so if you got your own picks, you got your own top 10 or something, let us know in the comments down below, because we'll probably make a part 2 and a part 3 even. But if you like this video and you like talking games with us every day, all you gotta do is click the like button. It very much helps us out. Thank you. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.